Hello, thank you for joining us during the MCPS Mental Health Week 2021 as we discuss supporting non-binary, gender fluid, and transgender students at home and school. I'm Katherine Oyson. I'm a school psychologist for Montgomery County Public Schools, and with me today is Dr. Laura Liebling.
Hi, I'm Laura Liebling. I'm also a school psychologist with the Montgomery County Public Schools.
So let's get on to the
Okay, so before we talk about gender identity, let's take a moment to talk about social constructs. So, social constructs are an idea that has been created and accepted by the people in a society. Some familiar examples are that boys wear pants and girls wear dresses, or pink is for girls and blue is for boys. But actually, prior to 1940, it was often thought that pink was a color for boys and blue was a color for girls because pink was associated with red, which men wore to demonstrate power. This photo is President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and you can see how our social constructs have changed since then with how boys are typically dressed for photographs.
Now we will be showing you a short video that provides a brief overview of the different aspects of gender identity.
All right, folks, here we go. A romaine and kale salad with avocado, cucumber, shishito peppers, and 4 kinds of cheese, sprinkled in balsamic straight from Italy.
Wow! In my day, salads only had 2 ingredients. A rock-hard wedge of iceberg lettuce and a stinky old dried-up tomato.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to eat fast. Alex is stopping by in a few minutes to work on our robotics project.
Alex, is that the girl with that weird dog or the boy with the hat with the wings that flap?
No, Uncle Jay. This is Alex.
Oh, okay. I remember. A very nice young... Come to think of it, well, is Alex a boy or a girl?
Actually, Alex doesn't define themselves as boy or girl.
What else is there?
Back in your day, most people understood the world in terms of just boys and girls. But now, we know gender is more complex than that.
Wait, aren't we just talking about whether you're born with a or a hee?
When you're born, your sex is assigned in a medical way, but the sex listed on your birth certificate may not necessarily match your gender identity.
Gender identity is a person's inner experience of who they are in terms of gender, their deep personal sense of being male, female, a blend of both, or neither.
And while many people have a gender identity that's the same as their assigned birth sex of female or male, that's not always the case, because gender exists on a spectrum. Like transgender, which means a person whose gender identity is not consistent with their assigned birth sex. Non-binary, which means a person whose identity doesn't fall in the category of either male or female. And genderqueer or gender fluid, which means a person who does not identify themselves as having a specific gender at all.
Does gender identity have to do with being straight or gay?
Actually, no. Gender identity has to do with the way you feel about yourself, while sexual orientation is based on the way you feel toward others, the people you may or may not be attracted to.
You know, I really like Alex, and I can tell they're a good friend to you. But I'm still pretty confused about all of this.
That's okay. You don't have to fully understand someone to respect them. To start, try not to make any assumptions about a person's gender, and use the name and pronouns that they ask you to. Above all, be a friend or ally for people of all gender identities.
That's right, Mom. Oh, Alex is here. Come on in.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, hey, Alex. Care for some salad? The balsamic's right from Italy, you know.
Now that we have a basis for what gender identity is comprised of, let's start taking a deeper look at some of the terms.
So some of the key terms that are important to know are gender assignment. Gender assignment is based on body parts and how the doctor defines the baby's sex. Gender identity is based on an internal sense of who we are. It can appear very early, even pre-verbal. It can be clear and stable, or it could be fluid and change over time. Gender expression is how we express our gender in dress, movement, gestures. It may be mildly different from what others expect of us, or it may be so bold as to be considered variant. Some people are then called gender creative. Sexual or romantic orientation is who we love and who we are attracted to. It's completely unrelated to and independent of gender identity.
We have a few more terms, including transgender, which is an umbrella term for any person whose gender identity differs from their gender assignment. On the other side, for individuals whose gender identity aligns with their gender assignment, we use the term cisgender. For example, I am a cisgender woman. Gender fluid, relating to a person whose gender is not fixed. For example, their gender expression can depend on their mood or occasion. Non-binary, gender non-conforming, a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that is neither entirely male or entirely female. Heterosexism, the assumption that our children are heterosexual and that being straight is normal. Heteronormativity is another word used to describe this phenomenon.
Gender is fluid and on a spectrum. Much like a color wheel, there are many different shades. Research and the medical communities now see that sex is more complex than male and female, and gender is a spectrum that includes transgender people, people who identify as neither male or female.
Transgender students too often encounter school experiences that can have lifelong mental health, social, emotional, and socioeconomic consequences, not because they are transgender, but because of how they are treated because they are transgender. A school policy that sets forth principles and procedures that are supporting transgender and gender nonconforming students can provide clear expectations for the school community and avoid invasion of privacy and other harms. This practice of acceptance provides children the opportunity to learn how to be an ally and friend to other children. In addition, providing a safety net for transgender children as a whole. And at the end of the day, a child, no matter their race, gender, or age, deserves to feel safe and welcome. All right. While these identities can sound confusing, simply put, these students do not fall into the traditional binary that we know of boy and girl. These students display a either mixture of traditional masculine, feminine, and neutral traits, or none of these traits. I would like you to meet the gender unicorn. I'd like to think that their name is Humphrey. So gender used to be considered on a binary scale of masculine and feminine on opposite sides. Now we understand that gender is more of percentages of each, even for people whose identity is cisgender. We have two components of gender. We have gender identity and gender expression. So gender expression is how a person presents their gender in the form of mannerisms. These combine to express to people exactly what our gender is. Our third component is sex assigned at birth relates to the physical components such as the reproductive organs and hormone production. I would like to introduce the term of intersex into our vocabulary as we are discussing people whose gender does not always align with their physical identification. Intersex people are individuals whose sex does not fit typical binary notions of male and female bodies. At times, they may have a mixture of male and female body components, or neither. As stated before, physical and emotional attraction are different from the concepts of gender identity. These may not align with each other, and they may not align with the gender. For example, a person can be physically attracted to one gender, but emotionally attracted to another gender. Overall, you can see with our unicorn, gender identity and expression are determined by our brains, while sex assignment is determined by physical characteristics of their body, which overall creates one person in all of their uniqueness.
Why is it important to support non-binary and trans students? And aren't there policies in place? So as we talked about earlier, having a gender expression that differs from what is considered the norm for that gender can sometimes make students a target for harassment, discrimination, bullying from peers, members of the community, and staff. So MCPS has guidelines for supporting student gender identity. Guidelines for supporting student gender identity. The Montgomery County Public Schools believes that it is important that all staff members and students recognize and respect matters of gender identity, including students who identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. And such students should feel comfortable expressing their gender identity. MCPS believes that MCPS will accommodate requests regarding gender identity and endeavor to protect students' privacy and confidentiality. We are committed to a safe, welcoming school environment where students are engaged in learning and are active participants in the school community because they feel accepted and valued.
So what can we do in schools? It's important that children know that school is a safe place for them to learn and express themselves. Staff and other students play a big role in whether or not someone feels safe and included. So here are some following tips and tricks to helping a student feel more supported in school. Number one, and this is very key, use the student's preferred name and pronouns. Even if this differs from their legal name, please continue to use the student's preferred name and pronouns. Ensure that the student has access to areas corresponding with their gender expression. Even if the student elects to go to a different neutral location, it's important that they have access to those areas, including making sure that the student is safe in those areas. Number three, practice using gender neutral terms. Instead of using wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, use partner or significant other, and pronouns such as they, them. It includes the inclusivity for people of other genders and orientations. Additionally, for those family situations that do not align with the nuclear family model, consider using terms like caregiver, parent, or adult. Number four, make an effort to foster relationships with students, including supporting or starting a gay straight alliance or other supportive clubs in your school. All students benefit from at least one adult in their school that they can connect to.
So now that you have some ideas about how to support students at school, let's talk about what you can do to support students at home. So research from the University of San Francisco shows that family acceptance of LGBTQ youth increases their overall well-being. And even a little bit of increase in family acceptance decreases lifetime risk for suicide attempts, illegal drug use, and HIV infection. So here are some of the things you can do at home to support a transgender or gender fluid or non-binary student. 1, use the student's preferred name and pronouns. 2, require family members to use the student's preferred name and pronouns. 3, be open to discuss gender expression and identity with your child. 4, educate yourself and the people around you. There are lots of resources available, and we'll review some of those at the end of this presentation. And 5, express to your child that all LGBTQ friends are welcome and safe in your home.
Supportive teachers can make a critical difference in the lives of all LGBTQ+ students. All it takes is one trusted adult to make a huge impact. One staff member to demonstrate that children can be who they are without fear of rejection. Someone students can seek refuge with in their school and community. And it is very important at this time when there is a lot of stress going on to make sure that every student feels that they have someone they can trust in their school building.
There are lots of things going on that will help us celebrate transgender, non-binary, and gender fluid people in our school and community. So here are some dates to mark on your calendars. May 17th, 2021 is International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. Transgender Awareness Week is November 13th through 19th. International Non-Binary Day is July 14th, 2022. International Pronouns Day is October 20th, 2021. And Intersex Awareness Day is October 26th, 2021.
So now we're going to review some local and national crisis resources. As we know, students that do consider themselves to be on our spectrum for LGBTQ, especially students that have that are transgender, gender fluid, and non-binary, tend to have emotional needs that we would like to support. So we have Montgomery County Crisis Center, which is available 24/7, 365, and they provide on-phone and in-person support. We have the Maryland Crisis Hotline, which is also available 24/7 to provide guidance, support, and counseling. It is just a phone call away. We have the Trans Lifeline, which is a grassroots hotline for the trans community by the trans community. We have the Trevor Project Lifeline chat and text. This is a crisis intervention and suicide prevention phone line. It also includes an online chat and texting service to make it more accessible for LGBTQ youth. Then we also have the National Suicide Hotline. While all of these resources are incredibly helpful for any seeking help for themselves or their students and children, please utilize either local or specialized services for our transgender, gender fluid, and non-binary children, as we have resources that are specifically gauged to support their emotional needs. Okay. So we have some online resources for our families to utilize and gain more knowledge about gender identity and how they can be supportive to all children as they come to terms with how they feel about themselves. Here are some books to consider. We have nonfiction books and fiction books. We have a kids' book about gender, about being transgender, and about being non-binary. I recommend all of these books. They are very simplistic and easy for any child at any age to understand. Then we have Allies for All. This text is more geared towards educators and supporters in the school system. However, it can be used as a resource for advocating for your children at school. The Gender Creative Child is a resource for family and practitioners wanting to understand the complexity and beauty of gender development and the value of affirmative care. And this can be used by any person trying to understand how to be more inclusive about gender identity. In our fiction books, we have This Is How It Always Was, a novel for parents and educators alike, a family story about loving and supporting their child who identifies as transgender. The remaining books are for our children to read. We have Pet, a science fiction novel with a transgender protagonist. However, gender does not play an important role in this story. A Story of Silence, a nightly fairy tale with a non-binary protagonist. Now, the two that I just mentioned, I have included on this list because representation is allowing non-binary, gender fluid, and transgender characters to exist without the entire focus being on their gender. I also included Graceful Grayson, which is a novel about an introverted sixth grader. It highlights not only the character's gender evolution, but also the struggles of growing up, and I would recommend this to any sixth grader. Listed below are some of the references that we use in conjunction with the online resources that we shared in a previous slide. If you have any questions or would like to learn more on how to support non-binary, gender fluid, and transgender students and youth, please reach out to us at our email addresses, and we can provide more information and more resources to you. So thank you for joining us today as we went over our presentation. As stated, if you need more information, please feel free to contact us.
Thanks again.